And we have Mike from around the world. Is that you?
That is me. God bless you, Sister Heidi.
God bless you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Oh, I'm on the hot seat tonight.
Are you on the hot seat?
Yep.
Oh, we have lots of questions. So much is going on around the world. Can you help us?
Let's go.
Well, where do you want to start?
Anywhere. Anywhere is fine. There's a lot going on, huh?
Yeah. Can you tell us about Venezuela?
Ooh, dark place. It's a
Yeah.
very dark place. Venezuela is. I think it's all coming to a head, but by the way, that area is a corridor. Um, Venezuela and all those Haiti, all those places up there. It's a corridor. It's a problem spot, a military problem spot.
Mm.
That's where China has a great interest, and of course Panama's near there, um, Honduras, and all these little spots where China interacts and has a pretty big influence. Um, so if we can actually uh, subdue that place, America could be protected in its some of its more vulnerable parts. That leads up to Cuba, by the way, and Cuba is a staging area for Russia, right? That's already a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Venezuela is very dark, and the only way to really subdue Venezuela is to go into it. It's sad to say, because they have Venezuela. The most of the people there, uh, it's a blending of Catholicism with uh, Caribbean Santeria practices, right? But witchcraft is all over that place. Sorcery is used all over that place. Shamanic practices, it's a general practice all over that place, and they do some pretty bad things. Like they, for some of those practices that take place at least once a week, they have to have living human bones to for some of their magic. This is every week, so there's a lot of death in that area, and it pertains to black magic. Um, so the better that place can be subdued, everybody's going to be in better shape.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a dark, dark place.
Mm-hmm. So it is as spiritually dark as it is physically, and then they
Absolutely.
had earthquakes going on there too.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. It is corrupted. I mean, corruption is. If a person were to go there and stay there for like a week, they would um, they would likely succumb to the atmosphere. You can feel it. It's a very thick atmosphere of darkness all the way around. It's almost like you're in prison or something. And then the people around there, you can look in their eyes. Many of them want to escape, but they can't. I mean, it's like absolute bondage in that place.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when he's teaching the civilians and putting guns in their hands, they don't really have a choice, do they?
No, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. They don't like it, but they know if they don't do it, their family is not going to make it,
Mm-hmm.
and their family won't make it. So it's one of those things, and President Trump is he's aware of this, and he's going to make a difference. Most of the crime, most of our enemies utilize Venezuela to get to the USA. So if that place is captured, if Cuba is secure, um, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, next to Guyana and all those other places, if they are secure, America can at least have a secure waters in that immediate area, because right now they're not secure. They're just not secure, and something tactical is is bound to spill over in a very short time period.
Mm-hmm. So is that part of the strategic renaming of the Gulf of America?
Yeah, it's a claiming actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's a claiming of sovereign territory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because if you think about it, the Gulf, that area has been utilized by China, by Russia, by anybody else who hates the USA, attempts to get soldiers through into the USA. And sad to say, that's what's been happening over many years. Soldiers have actually been entering into the USA. through any, not only Mexico, but also Florida. Florida's a big area where people kind of wander into the USA. Um, but of course, that's being taken care of, and it will come. It's one of those situations that it's been ignored for so long. And now that somebody's doing something about it, the sheer number of operatives, I guess you could say, in the USA is alarming. It's alarming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that takes us up. Let's talk about that telecom situation that they stopped at the UN.
Yep. Well, first, I want to say that was one of a few places. That's ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because the equipment that was actually seized, if you look at it, SIM cards, yes. But some of the servers were actually Raspberries, right? Which is a very cheap computer board that you can buy from Amazon and load it up full of software and have it do just about anything you want it to do. Some of the radio equipment that was used, they had routers, but those routers were also full of them. They were full of boards that you can buy from Amazon, any place, to put it together. In fact, a 13-year-old could actually build those devices. And that stuff being all over the world, that's not the only spot. It's not like that cost, billions of dollars to do. The average person on a medium salary could do that same thing, given a 3-4 months time. So that problem is likely all throughout the USA, and that's a big suspicion of mine. It's a big worry because I know how numerous. If somebody were to look at some of the transmissions taking place in the USA, you start looking at some of these smaller MCU microcontroller unit devices, transmissions, GLONASS systems, and things that use SIM cards, you find them all throughout the USA. All throughout the USA. They could easily be turned into devices. In a matter of seconds, they could be spoofed or utilized to take down our cellular network. And I think that we've already gone through that. They just did not want to admit it. Mm-hmm. When the cell companies went down, right? Mm-hmm. That was the same thing, because at the same time the cell companies went down, we had aircraft that also started to go down, if people can recall and match those dates together. So there were certainly something was jamming frequencies of 4G, 3G, and up all throughout the northern hemisphere, basically, essentially. Mm-hmm. But that's an ongoing issue. That's not over. It's not over. It's a vulnerability, and it's it's one of those things that is we're going to have to. They're going to have to tackle this very carefully, and it will come with some compromises. But it's going to enhance security, because I'll say it again. This is going to lead to the great hack. I'm going to call it the great hack, when people in America and Europe and NATO countries, France, Spain, Turkey, all these NATO countries are going to experience a type of digital hacking event in which people will call for biometric devices instead of passwords. Mm-hmm. They're gonna want to get rid of passwords. They're gonna want secure networks because it's gonna come with great loss. That's the other problem, right? They could potentially lose everything through hacking. And with AI, it can be a type of automated hacking. So it's not a particular person, but a machine with instructions to fight all other AIs to accomplish, some nefarious things. That's the world we live in right now.
Yeah, and I just saw, again, UK is coming out with the digital ID. And we saw Vietnam. Yep. It was Vietnam, wasn't it, with the digital ID last week?
All the Western states or Western countries, NATO countries, mm-hmm. should be on board with the new network that's coming out. A brand new network is coming out. Mm-hmm. I heard Pastor Paul mention 10G, right? Mm-hmm. One of the primary reasons for 10G is to synchronize Earth-based devices with space-based devices.
Space-based?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we have platforms that are up in space. They're not mentioned. They will be soon enough, but they're not mentioned. And when people find out about those, they'll begin to realize how big the digital infrastructure actually is, but also what's at stake. So it's all going into motion this year. They're doing everything this year. I believe that some of the 5G towers already have some of the modded equipment on them to expand it. So you're in a rush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's really quite amazing, actually, when you try to wrap your head around it.
It is.
Because like we're getting to the point that we're all going to be part of everything, right?
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, we already are.
Mm-hmm.
Look at our dependency on technology,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the first step was getting people comfortable with devices.
Mm-hmm.
The second step was to get people to depend upon those devices and to see them as harmless. The third state is to integrate those devices into everyday life. And of course, the final step would be to integrate those devices into the biology of people.
Can't hear. We lost whatever you did. We lost him.
You guys, I'm lost. You guys can't hear me?
I You're there, but I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. You there?
Testing.
Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Now he's here.
Okay, we're back.
Yep,
All
we're
right.
back. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
All right. Anyway, no, I was just saying about the getting people ready for integration with digital devices.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's one small thing, like television, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in, I think it was like 2000 or something like that, there was a conversation about television, and they're doing everything they said they would do. First, there will be millions of channels, right?
Right.
So many channels, the person will not be able to really watch them all at once. And to surf through Hulu and all these other places, it's going to become quite redundant. So a different device is being developed that has something to do with the eye. And basically, whatever your mood is, what you're thinking, or whatever your brain waves indicate, it'll start switching through streams to give you exactly what you want. But they know that people normally don't stay and watch the same television show the whole way through. So this device will track everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have at least a person will be able to consume, I guess you could say, consume about, I don't know, 15 times more than what they can right now with comprehension of what they've been watching,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because people are information hungry. And with this device, it works with the eye. It'll be utilized as such. So we're going to see streaming services become these super centers, these super data centers. And of course, with the new device that people will have, they'll have information on demand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be much faster than anything else. You won't have to search. You won't have to do that. They've already mapped the brain, so they know what all your thoughts actually are, and they can interpret that into requests, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be perfected, and small things like that will be put into everybody's tech base, I guess you could say, which will then create a further dependency upon technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the control mechanism for everybody is technology. Even right now, if a person is not allowed to use a cell phone, if a person is not allowed to get on the internet, their whole world would collapse.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole world.
Mm-hmm.
It's moving to that area to where people will, as soon as they're born, they're going to have some sort of ID that will link them to the network, and there you are.
Mm-hmm.
There you are.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. It's like we have something like 30 to 50 trillion cells, and all of them are actually down, if you can take them all down to photons, and then you can activate all those photons, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they can also, I think with some of the new computer modeling, they'll actually be able to track at the cellular level everything that's going on in the head. They have certain devices like that. But we're moving into an area that is, it's not a good area, because once you go so far, a person has no ability to track what the technology is doing. Kind of like AI, when it writes its own code, and then the original coders have no idea what language it's using, what procedures have been inserted, and they can't do anything about it. So we're in that area.
Yeah, and AI is amazing. President actually said maybe we should use it at the UN to track all the bioweaponry.
Yeah, that's almost a signal that it's already in motion, or it's it's about to get in motion. That'd be a good thing, though, actually, Sister Heidi, because we could destroy right now one nation. Each nation probably could destroy the earth if they had loss of biocontainment of what they've been developing. And I think North Korea and Russia are the two worst. Russia, of all nations, would understand this, right? Russia's had some pretty bad accidents, and they vaulted most of their chemical and biological weapons. But so they know the consequences of mistakes, of human mistakes, and what it can actually cost. But North Korea, Kim Jong-un, he has the largest stockpile of chemical biological weapons. So it's almost like a message to North Korea that we're about to tone you down a little bit. At some point, they're going to have to do something about that at some point.
Yeah, because Russia seconded it right away. They said they agreed.
Yeah, they did. Yep, they did.
Yeah, so very interesting. And we can agree on that. Russia also just recently had, I found it very interesting. I was checking on, I follow one of the scientists, and who's a futurist, and they recently had like a futurist conference just this week, and it was their BRICS nations, and even European nations were there. So I found that very interesting, seeing that, Trump just said to the European nations, why, I'm not going to continue to do this with Russia and Ukraine as long as you continue to buy oil from them. Well, they're over there having a futurist technological conference in Moscow this week.
Yep. So, two things have happened. Russia, China, and a few other nations have started their own golden age, essentially. The USA is not quite in lockstep with that. So there's a tug of war right now, right? And Russia's they're going to probe Russia to see how financially stable it actually is. And Russia, so far, has been doing okay. And because they have the support of China, they have the support of some other places. And India is, sad to say, India is also seems to be supporting Russia, right, with Europe. So what the clear picture is this: the USA stands by itself with Israel, right? President Trump understands this. He will, on occasion, he'll throw out hints that this is the way it is, that we have no allies, that other nations can't quite be trusted. And the UN was a good example of that with the language of the recognition of the Palestinian people versus the recognition of Israel as a whole with Jerusalem, not Jerusalem being a part of some other nation's province. And Trump was totally against it, but you had all these other nations who started to speak out. And the Syrian president, everybody ought to keep their eye on this guy. This guy is everywhere. He's been with President Trump. He's been with every single influential leader in the world, and he's gaining respect and ground and everything else. It is abnormal. In my opinion, it is spiritual, right? Nobody gets that type favor without some sort of spiritual influence. And I'm not talking about a good spirit, but this guy is doing things that no person with his background should be able to do. No person. But he's making too much. He's gaining too much ground in the hearts of these leaders, including our president.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting in a bad way. This guy's doing it fast.
Yeah, he's not a good guy. Not at all. No, he's got a terrible history. And I even seen that Trump was thinking about getting Bagram Air Base back.
I hope so.
You think that'll happen?
Well, I hope so. I really do. In my heart of hearts, I know everything's going to align by way of prophecy. Some of what is proposed to be done, because it contradicts with prophecy, I know is wishful thinking, but the attempt is commendable. But I think we're in a time where the pieces are putting themselves in final position, is what it looks like. I mean, this is beyond suspicion. This is, there are too many absolutes that are happening right now. And Israel's position, the whole world is calling for their disarmament, essentially, right? For them to be subdued. And we know that's only a matter of time. President Trump's the only thing holding back the other nations from doing anything. But I heard something very disturbing, Sister Heidi.
Okay.
There was a conversation concerning President Trump. They said, just tell him yes. Tell him yes, appease him. Tell him yes. Tell him yes, and then we'll go forward. Just tell him yes. So in other words, it's almost like by speech. They're going to deceive him by telling him yes to just about everything, right? But that's not what they're doing behind closed doors. Just like you mentioned, the conference in Russia, you have these other nations who are supposed to be, with NATO, doing things in the best interest of NATO, yet with what President Trump has proposed, not buying the gasoline, you have these same nations, joining conferences with Russia moving forward as far as the futurist conference with technology. That's it's a big statement. That means they're willing to be in the future with Russia,
right.
And they're disregarding what President Trump is saying, so they have no intention of following through with what President Trump is proposing. So we have a world that's saying yes to the most powerful leader in the world, but in their hearts they're not with him. They're not, which means when his tenure is over, what happens then?
Right.
What happens then? These guys are setting up for something. It's almost like they're preparing for his departure. And once he departs, the influence he holds is going to be gone, and they can move forward with what they want to move forward with. Now, that's I know it's a somewhat of a morbid thought, but you really can't help but to see it that way or in a similar way once you see the whole picture.
Right. And that's what I was saying before. We have to frame everything as if it's, the next election, always about 18 months before the next election, everything starts moving that way. For instance, silencing Charlie Kirk's voice.
Yeah, and I believe that was absolute. That was odd. All right, I say that was odd because of this. That guy who assassinated Charlie Kirk, in truth, he may have had his emotions run away with him, right? There may have been an external component to that. And here's why I say that. This will get weird, but I know you like to research. Pastor Paul says you research everything. So people who get abducted by aliens, they say they got abducted by aliens, right? There's a phenomenon that happens with him. And I should be okay to say these things, but these people have white spots in their brains. Okay, white spots. These white spots show up on CT scans. All of them across the board, no exception. Now, those white spots, that's not dead tissue, that's living tissue. This living tissue, the white spots, is not. It is not a sign of any known disease or any known condition, right? So there is a condition where you have white spots on the brain, but that's not it. These are different. All these people have that. But what it does look similar to, and what they found in some of these folks, as far as these folks, all of them have an IQ above a specific level. Number one, these same folks, they have increased RADs in their system. In other words, they've been exposed to radiation more than the other people have. All of them across the board, no exceptions. Every time they take in the subjects a test, they all come out with the same results. These same people have other traits that are similar, but do you remember the Havana syndrome?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have telltale signs that they've been exposed to the Havana syndrome. Okay, which is somebody external utilizing some sort of microwave pulse weapon against people to speak directly into their heads. It induces headaches and this, that, and the other.
Right.
All of these people have the same exact traits, the same exact chemical signatures, biological signatures. That's astounding when everything is so consistent with these people. Every time they bring these people in and they get checked out, the same results come out, to those who really claim they have been abducted. Well, the Havana syndrome, it can often, people can speak in other people's heads and reinforce it in a weird way, and the person can be activated simply by prompts, maybe an advertisement prompt, maybe a message, right? Like Charlie Kirk, they could have said, well, they could have drilled that into somebody's head, anybody's head, and then that could have been the prompt to send somebody over the scales emotionally to make them do some things. This is done so effectively, it is spooky, right? And it's so effective that nations have safeguards against that now. They, of course, they didn't advertise that, but people can find it. Mm-hmm. I honestly believe that something like that could have taken place with this person who assassinated Charlie Kirk. I believe there are external components involved. I believe they're ultimately after President Trump. And I think that President Trump understands that. I think his defense team understands that. Mm-hmm. But it's getting worse, which leads me to believe there's an active attempt to implement some sort of new global standard, right? A global standard that will quickly come into play once certain figures are moved out of the way. And only prayer can halt that. It's not going to be stopped by conventional means. I honestly believe this is a spiritual thing, and it can only be stopped by intercession. Mm-hmm. Nothing else is going to stop it. Nothing else. These guys are committed, and they are relentless. Because these assassination attempts, as an example, they will not stop. They're not going to stop. They will not stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're all starting to look very much like each other too. I don't know if you chalk it up to copycat mm-hmm. or if you chalk it up to somebody's arranging things.
Yeah, I would say somebody's arranging things. Mm-hmm. A copycat is one thing, right? Mm-hmm. But to be so effective twice. Mm-hmm. But then here's another telltale trait of Havana syndrome is that there are active things you can do when the event is taking place to cause a person to have cloudy thoughts, as though they have somehow they can deplete vitamin B12 in the system of a person. to make them believe that, to make their thoughts kind of fuzzy. So they see somebody on the roof and they say, is that somebody on the roof? But they have no energy, no enthusiasm to do anything else but to see the person. I find that strange. If you went to an event for the president and somebody's laying down on the roof, why would anybody say, is that somebody laying down on the roof with a rifle?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Is that they of course they would do something. So something else was happening there too.
Right.
It's almost like the state of the people that were there was different.
Mm-hmm.
It was just different.
Yes. Interesting thing. The Aviv Clinic here in the villages actually was treating Havana syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just FYI, they're very fascinating. But anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So what about Pete Hegseth calling everybody to Quantico? What's going on there? All the generals.
Well, everybody has to be on the same sheet of music.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Okay.
There has to be a at some point, somebody has to ask the question. Are you loyal to the commander in chief or not?
Mm.
You can't, because you have a lot of folks in there
Mm-hmm.
that are they're top brass, yes, but they're not behind the president, and that shouldn't be. It's okay to have checks and balances, but ultimately, you have to have those who would support and to carry out orders that they're given, not question every order that they're given. And so there's an issue in leadership from time to time where people are hesitant, or they talk too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they leave their phone on and they start, talking trash, and they think that nobody knows it. So to announce that publicly, to let that be public, should let everybody know what that is. If it were very, very serious, not one person would know that. Nobody would know. Nobody assembles your top brass into one area and then everybody knows where they're going, right? If it were serious, nobody would know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
everybody would hear about that after the fact,
mm-hmm.
right? So this is about accountability. Who's loyal, who's not, who's going to stand by their oath, and who's going to break their oath. One of those type things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an ongoing filtering of people taking place, because before certain moves are made, they have to make sure that everybody's on the same team, and that should let everybody know that there is a type of operation that is soon to take place, and it will require absolute loyalty, understanding. That normally means when they take big steps, people are not going to understand why it's being taken, and not in all degrees. And so you need absolute cohesion in the chain of command when things like that take place. And so we're seeing the beginning of that.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's coming to an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So speaking of that, trying to make sure that we have cohesion in the Secret Service, how does an escalator get stopped in the middle of them trying to go up at the First Lady and the President?
Well, that is the UN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that place is like a dusty hotel.
Mm-hmm.
It is, if anybody's ever been there, and it's weird too. They don't exactly. Sometimes they do little things on purpose, and they ignore a lot. Although it looks bad, right? Because it looks like somebody did that on purpose. That's what it looks like. Because those elevators can be controlled. That's a fact. You have a person controlling those elevators, and that's their only job. But if you take a glance at the person that was part of the security that stands up with the speakers, then you'll get a good clue in who they hire for security. Right? They're not. I don't think they're quite up to par as far as their job is concerned. And the president coming in there, you would think they would have taken extra steps to ensure security, ensure the systems are okay. I just don't believe that was done. I think that people have disdain such disdain for President Trump that some people have personal feelings so strong, they're not going to go an extra step to make sure his security is okay. And then you have other people higher up, they're not going to ensure that their subordinates ensure that extra security is taken. I just think there's a lapse in security at the UN. I think it's a place that's divided. The UN their role is not quite defined as far as the president's concerned, right? Is that you have a place that does not like his comments against them. So one of those situations, that's why his
it's not acceptable.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But they know that. Personally, who can find a good reason for the UN?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's humanitarian. As their major, what they end up doing is people pour billions of dollars into the UN, and what they go out and do is provide humanitarian support for other folks. That's all they do. They control logistics, things like that. But outside from that, they argue in chambers, and nothing is done about it. It's a bunch of stacked up paperwork with proposals that stay there for years and years and years. And there's no solution that I'm aware of that ever came from the UN that actually solved anything.
Yeah, not good. But anyways, I digress. What about the Gaza 21-point plan that President Trump has? Are we ever going to get the last hostages out?
If any hostages are actually left. I had a bad thought. In the Middle East, it's a known fact. There's a tactic of stalling that nations use and terrorist organizations use when there's no chess pieces to negotiate with. Right, so they will hold up an appearance of hostages. But I think that people might want to really consider that those hostages may not be there.
Right.
I know nobody wants to hear that, but yet there's not enough empathy. What happened to the cry for the hostages every single day? It died out. Well, that tells me somebody knows something, right? And they don't know how to communicate that. So, at some point that's not going to work anymore. At some point it's going to be exposed. And I believe it's soon to be exposed because President Trump is going to demand that either they be turned over or they finally disclose what has actually happened. And he's going to put himself in position. He's going to put some pieces in position where they have no choice but to do that. Because what he's doing right now is he's putting them in controlled hands. They just can't see it. If you look carefully, they're being put in controlled hands. That's what's happening right now. So you have to put the squeeze on some of these folks so they will not give an inch, sad to say. Right. And as far as Hamas is concerned, in my opinion, they'll never get rid of Hamas because Hamas is an ideology of which too many people have, and they they hate the USA and Israel, and that hatred is spreading in the Middle East. It's really spreading. You had teenage kids, young kids, who saw their parents die in what they think was a war, an unfair war. They don't know about October 7th. All they know is Israel mutilated their parents. That's all they know. And so they hate Israel for that. Imagine a child growing up with that type of hatred. Of course they're going to turn into Hamas, right? And so you have millions of kids over there just like that. And they have a hatred. Some of these kids, this is from direct observation. Sister Heidi, you have 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old children who right now would blow themselves up. And how do they know this? They have these situations where they put the kid does not know it. The kid believes they're real explosives. They have situations and they'll put a kid through a scenario and the kid does not know it's a scenario. They won't make the child do anything. These kids voluntarily put on an explosive vest and run into places and press the trigger, right? Because some of those triggers are like Claymore triggers. Some are like strings that you pull, but they do that voluntarily just to see if they would do it or not. And there are too many kids who would voluntarily blow themselves up and everybody else.
Right.
Out of for the sake of hatred. They're not doing it for their deity. They're doing it out of hate, and that's what makes this era different than any other. These kids are not doing it for Islam. They're not doing it for Allah. They're doing it out of pure hatred for Israel. We're in a different time.
Because we've had more bloodshed than ever.
We're in a very different time.
Yeah, we were talking before you got on here about, Gaza. It was one of the 5 kings. It's an ancient place.
Yeah.
And so there's ancient entities emanating from Gaza.
Absolutely. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So, and the bloodshed that has happened over the years and the years and the years, and now, as you said, the bloodshed continues, and it's just the hate is ingrained.
Yeah. It's growing. But by prophecy, we know the Lord will put an end to it, but only He can. Nobody else can. It's another factor. People may try to subdue that area. Everyone has failed. Everyone has failed. And according to prophecy, only God can do that near the end. But we're close anyway. There are some things that we'll go through and see that where people will begin to make sense of that situation if they still have the word, because we'll also have a famine of the word of God too.
Yeah. So what do you think about Charlie Kirk? Do you think we're going to have revival out of that movement?
I think many have picked up the mantle. A lot of people, I take a lot of heat for things like this. I do, because I like to tackle the tough things. A lot of people thought that Charlie Kirk was racist or something, right? They get the little sound bites and they hear things, they pull them out of context. The truth is, Charlie Kirk discussed things in a common language. In this world that we live in, certain races will have you omit certain comments and things because they are, because only they can say that. It's almost like if I were to tell you, well, I can call this person stupid, but you can't. Don't you do it, right? Something like that. So Charlie Kirk kind of went right down the middle. So he would actually utilize the terminology that was utilized, not in a racist way. He would do that in a racist way. But he was doing that in a responsible way. If a person breaks into a store and they steal stuff over and over, right? Then what are they? They're not an upstanding citizen, right? That's actually somebody who's that's a criminal, essentially, right? So he just called him a criminal, right? And they found that offensive. They pull out these sound bites and do that. But his points and his what he was actually doing, feeding into young children and inspiring young children about Christ, they're picking up the mantle.
Yeah. So far, so good. So, his wife, she's got a whole lot ahead of her, and of course the children, have the rest of their lives ahead of them, So.
I thought it was amazing that you have kids of all races who listen to Charlie Kirk, but one of their number one comments was, "He's the reason I gave my life to Christ."
Yeah, that's huge.
Now that's very huge, and you're talking about all races across the board. So they'll pick up his work, they'll continue his work, and continue to go forward. They'll do their thing in their time, but his work it's not going to stop. He was actually trying to liberate people from these old systems that people build to imprison people in, right? Having people, like a lot of people used to believe they would have to agree with certain things. And he told them, no, you don't. You don't have to agree. You don't have to go along with that. Go along with your faith. Because let's go ahead and face it, there have been a lot of people who come in this country who do not regard Christ. They do not regard anything in the Bible. In fact, they hate the Bible. And a lot of these policies that were beginning to come forward were inclusive policies for people who hated Christ. Well, this country has a Christian foundation. There's no other foundation for this country but a Christian foundation. And he reiterated that over and over again. And all these people who came up attempting to deny that, wiping away history to deny that, he put that back in perspective. That's what they hated. They hated it because he stopped some of the spiritual nonsense that was coming from so many different places. That was a true hateful reason, right? Because you have people out there right now who are they're just terribly racist or terribly mean, and nobody says anything about them. Charlie Kirk, what made him different is he stood with Christ. That was a difference. And so Christ, let's go ahead and face it, that is a subject hated by quite a few people in America. They do not like Christ. And if you mention the Bible, that's when their faces change.
Yeah. So everybody in the chat room is asking me to ask you about James Comey.
James Comey?
Yeah.
What about James Comey?
What's going to happen with him?
People should watch. They got to watch, because sometimes a suggestion can be taken as fact, right? And sometimes these suggestions that are made, they may be someone's intent in the background, but that doesn't make it an event that will actually take place. And I would say that people are going to be held accountable for things that have happened, right? And if they have been involved in some nefarious things, some things that were against, American ideologies, they're going to be held accountable. Period. If they weren't, they're going to be free to go. But if they were, it's going to be brought up. It'll be brought up before the people. It's not like they're going to prosecute somebody and nobody knows what it was about. No, they're going to put it before the people. They're going to be totally transparent with it. And if they have been involved in or did some things they shouldn't have done, it'll be presented to the people. It'll be taken to court, proven, and the outcome will be the outcome.
After a while, I just get tired of my tax dollars going for all this legal stuff.
Yeah.
But what about the comets? They say there what are we supposed to have 7 more comets before the end of the year, and
we have a type irregular grouping of objects that'll be here this year. So 2025 is a very different, very strange year concerning that. But hey, these objects are going to become more and more numerous. I just hope that we're going to get beyond the point of research and discovery, and we're going to have to deal with ramifications of what we talked about. And so I hope that people they have some sort of mitigation plan for when these things begin to breach. Because, people are not going to have to prove to anybody that we're in trouble from the heavens. Nobody will have to prove that. It's going to be a weekly, it'll be a devastating thing every single week that somebody's going to have to encounter. And we're going to have to really learn quick how to live in a world full of ash, full of debris, full of a changing sky, with a bunch of new substances and chemicals we haven't dealt with before. We're moving towards that quickly. Some of these objects that are coming by, it's almost like they're heralding that. But there is a marker. There is a marker. People will see 2 huge comets with long tails crisscross. That crisscross should stay up in the sky about 3.5 days, almost exactly 3.5 days. Can you imagine that, seeing two comets with crisscross tails in the sky for about 3.5 days? Think that'll be a sign?
When are we going to see this marker?
Well, that conjunction is coming quickly, and these two objects are coming from two impossible places. They'll come from two. I bet you I'll below. He'll see one and see the other,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll likely be the one that say they come from two impossible directions, two impossible places.
Mm-hmm. So
Because there's some areas we normally don't get anything from.
Are they interstellar? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not local. These are not local. But I'll tell you something. The government is sad to say, but they have their black projects, and they don't share anything in that realm with any public entity. They don't. They recruit from colleges. But they do not share with colleges. They don't. That should have been painfully evident with some of the arguments that Avilode brought forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of these other guys that are speaking about some of the UAP phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like to share. So it's almost like everybody's on a different sheet of music. And on occasion, there are people who get to see all types of information from all sides, and they can put it together.
Mm-hmm.
On occasion, that happens.
Mm-hmm. So what about the comet, the obvious comet, what is it, 3I?
I hope they catalog it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they get to learn everything about it. Here's why: if we have nations, here's a grounded reason why. We have nations that don't exactly like us, right? So it would be good if we could identify all types of things that fly in space so that we don't misidentify something, right? Mm-hmm. And the more we know, the better we're going to be able to identify and mitigate any type of activity up there that shouldn't be up there. We have a lot of satellites up there. There are a lot of space-based platforms in space. I mean, it would blow your mind how many space-based platforms we actually have up there. Elon Musk, his is like call his lower altitude objects, but in the higher altitudes, we have a lot of stuff up there. Mm-hmm. A lot of things that people would be shocked to know that we have up there. And the more we can identify, the faster we can react to things that are truly unidentifiable, or things that could, hurt us in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, I was studying out, like I said, one of the Russian scientists I've been following, and they have these nano libraries, which I knew that they took the nano Bible and put it on the Bear sheet. The rocket that went from Israel. But apparently they have all these libraries all over space and deep Earth, and deep within the Earth in several places. So that's quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Or they call them the authorization, or the rites of passage text, I believe they call them, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Incantations. Some of them have incantations. It's the reason why they name certain spacecraft. They put certain symbols on them as a rite of passage. Mm-hmm. So you're dealing with the ancient world. Something of the ancient world goes on everything that flies. Mm-hmm. Now that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Anything that flies, you're going to have ancient symbology on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And SpaceX also helped get some of those rockets where they needed to go with the libraries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And we're a lot further along. If you start looking into that stuff, it will take you down a weird road, but then you find out some of that weirdness is quite common. Yeah. It's just that it's just not, popular knowledge, or a lot of people just don't know about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. In fact, you can sign up and have your name in the library if you want.
Yeah. Nope. Not I.
Yeah.
I want my name in the book of life only. No other books.
There you go. The books are open right now.
Yeah.
We're in the 10 days.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, you know what? We got to pray for Pastor. He's had that jaw surgery, so he's kind of suffering tonight. But we thank you for coming on and putting up with me today.
You're Heidi. You're like a school teacher. I keep telling you, I have to be on my toes. And Pastor Paul went around to save me.
Yes. He's a good guy.
It's an honor, though. It really is an honor. Mm-hmm. It's an honor.
Yeah, he's my wingman. He's here. You just can't see him.
I will say one thing, though, Sister Heidi, to your audience. The audience will soon see what's happening in the world, right? Mm-hmm. It is the responsibility of the body of Christ to take care of the restaurants where you get good food, right? So it's their responsibility not to let the restaurant fail, which is your ministry and other ministries, or don't let them fail. That's the responsibility of those who eat at that. If I eat at a restaurant and I like the food, I'm going to make sure it never goes anywhere, right? It's their responsibility. And I say that because it's there are activities in the earth that if people are not careful, it'll just slip their mind and they will assume a lot, not knowing the facts. And once you start assuming, you can become a bit cold or reluctant to do things. And God does love a cheerful giver. And a cheerful giver is one that has a desire to see something go further, right? Also, the last one is, if you want better food, provide for the restaurant, and you'll get the best food that could ever be delivered. And the Lord does that, because any vessel, and if the people look to a certain direction for anything, and they start to sow into that place, God will supernaturally fill that place up for the exact thing they need. That principle I know very well. The Lord will do it every single time.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you for that.
Well, Sister Heidi, God bless you, and Pastor Paul. Get well, brother.
Yes. All right.
Don't say anything. Yeah. I can imagine. I'm rubbing my jaw.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, they dug in there for 3 hours and then gave him a bone graft. So, yeah.
Okay. Ouch.
Yeah. But thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we always thank you for all of the knowledge that you give us.
It's always an honor, Sister Heidi.
All right.
God bless you and Pastor Paul.
God bless.
All right.